One, two, three, four.
And also, if you have not got a ballot paper yet, could you please make sure you have a ballot paper? And there are pencils on the table as well. I'll explain the ballot paper when we get to it. It probably would be good if you didn't do anything with that until the explanations were made. The agenda has been available electronically, and we will be using the agenda as it is there. Colin, I know I said no, but perhaps if you could just flick through that, because we will be asking people to accept the agenda as our way forward. So perhaps if those of you who haven't seen an agenda electronically, you might like to cast your eyes over the screen as it flicks through to make sure that you're okay when I ask the question about the agenda. Just to remind you that you should have the 3 cards, the ballot paper and a pencil if you are inclined. I think it's 15 minutes, at least 15 minutes after the agenda, after the benediction. Do we know if there's anybody else in the hall? Thank you. I'm going to sit in ceremony in a minute, but I just thought I'd stand before I start the meeting. Thank you very much for returning so promptly so that we might begin the meeting. It is a full day today, and we are pleased that it is such an active occasion, a Sunday. Worship and business followed by fellowship is what we are all about at Morialta. We obviously consider the worship that we undertake each week to be important, but the fellowship within and around the congregation is also important. But on occasion, it is really, really necessary and important to exercise our minds and our talents in relation to the business of this congregation. Right. Thank you very much for your attendance, everybody. I am pleased to welcome you all. There are a number of apologies that have already been registered. If you are aware of any person or couple or any family who's not able to be here but would like to be acknowledged as an apology, could you see Craig at the end of the meeting? As always, whether we are at worship, whether we are at play, we acknowledge the first peoples of this place, the Ghana people, who have for millennium cared for and been stewards of the land on which we now stand. We acknowledge their elders, past, present and emerging, and we continue to hope for reconciliation that provides us with an opportunity for greater understanding. Thank you very much for your attendance, and we will begin the meeting. What's the first thing? It's
confirmation of the agenda.
Confirmation of the agenda is the first thing. Those of you who have had the agenda electronically will be in perhaps a better position than those who haven't, but thank you to Colin for just flipping through the agenda. Can I ask you to indicate using your cards? Now, I should say, the cards. There are 3 cards these days. We make our decisions using the model of consensus, which is the way that all councils of the Uniting Church undertake their decision-making. Through discernment and then through consensus, we believe we come to a much more robust and appropriate decision. The orange cards are there for you to indicate your warmth for or your agreement with an idea or a proposal. The blue cards are to indicate that you are cool to the proposal, that you're not yet ready to agree to it, that you don't think that it's perhaps the best way forward. The yellow card is a reasonably recent addition. Once upon a time, when we had questions, we would put up the blue card, but that was seen to be confusing. So these days, we use the yellow card if we've got a question that relates to the matter that we are considering as a congregation. So that's the orange, the blue, and the yellow cards are there for you to use. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be able to see anybody's card, but there are plenty of people who will tell me when that is, when there are cards that need to be paid attention to. Are there any questions about that? If you've got any questions, you put up your yellow card. Okay. I should also say welcome to those who might be listening and participating online. We're pleased that you are able to do that, and we are grateful to the people behind the black curtain for enabling that. So, having been through the description of the cards, can I then ask you to indicate your warmth or otherwise about the agenda that is before us? Now, there are no yellow cards, there are no blue cards. We have consensus. Yes, we have consensus. So that means that the agenda as it's published will be our framework for this meeting. Thank you very much. The confirmation of the minutes? Now, the minutes have been before you. I already need to say that thanks to Leanne, we have one minor correction. Leanne wasn't here last time, but obviously she is one person who's read the minutes and is able to indicate a minor correction. The incoming chairperson of Presbytery indeed is not Leanne, but is Diane Holden, the Reverend Diane Holden. So we will make that correction in the minutes going forward. But are there any questions or concerns that relate to the minutes as you have them? If you've got any questions, put your yellow card up. In the absence of any questions, then can I ask you to indicate your warmth or otherwise at receiving these minutes and receiving them into the record of the meeting? We have no other cards but orange. We have consensus. Yes, we have consensus. So those records with those minutes, with the change that has been identified, will go into the record of our congregation. Thanks very much, everybody.
Mission in action.
And then who's
supply ministers?
Right now, as we do in other congregation meetings, we take the opportunity to ask our minister in placement to share some of the joys and concerns that might have come her way. While obviously Leanne is in a period of supply, she is also our minister. And so, Leanne, can I welcome you to the lectern and ask you to share with us anything that you would like to at this time?
You'll be pleased to know this will be short. I've only been here 2 months. I want to start by saying thank you to you all for welcoming Scott and I among you and making us feel so loved and at home. As someone who has served in a number of churches and having been a lay preacher who preached in a lot of churches, it's nice to feel at home in a church. So thank you for welcoming us in that way. One of the things I've noticed since I've been here, and it's a bigger congregation than I've served in before, so I'm getting used to the extra committees and things. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because with more people you need more organisation. But when you're in a congregation that's often only twice the size of your church council, there's not a lot of extra meetings. But there is a great sense of commitment to the work of God in this place. And I want to encourage you all in that. Particularly what I'm seeing as we, when we gather each week, it's not just us here in the room, it's the people on the live stream, which you'll be pleased to know includes my mother and my mother-in-law. The work that goes into doing that. And it might seem like a lot, but I see that as a great commitment of sharing the gospel. Because it's Morialta Church thinking beyond its own walls to other congregations like our friends from Kimber, but other people who can't be here on a Sunday. And to be able to continue to share the gospel and get God's love out there. I just want to encourage you all in that you do here each week. So thanks, Bruce, for letting me have a...
Obviously, we've welcomed you on a couple of occasions, but we welcome you to the whole of the life of the Uniting Church in this place, and let me tell you that while Leanne is 0.7 with Morialta, she continues to exercise her ministry in a number of different areas in the wider church. She's on standing committee of Synod, and she's on standing committee of the Wimmera Wimmera Presbytery. But as well as that, she spends her time as a resourcing minister for the Wimmera Presbytery at 0.2 time, and she's also works for the Uniting Church Historical, not Hysterical Society for 0.1.
Sometimes maybe.
Well, so Leanne, we are grateful for your ministry. We thank you for your report, and we hope that you continue to feel the love and presence of God through the friendship and the fellowship that you and Scott enjoy here at Morialta. Thank you. Thanks very much. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the annual report. The annual report comes to you from Church Council. It should be read in conjunction with all of the other detailed information that comes to you through the year. We are fortunate to have a Vision magazine that comes out very regularly that provides information from wider church and congregational input. We obviously also have the weekly newsletter that provides details about what is going on in and around the congregation and our wider community week by week. The annual report does not include every dot and jot of activity that we as a congregation are involved in. But it does seek to summarise some of the significant areas of our ministry and mission. It is obviously a busy place, but there are opportunities for further busyness, and we look forward to the challenges that will come our way as a consequence of the resourcing group's report to council, which we'll hear a little bit more about later, as well as all sorts of other things. The report was provided to you during the week electronically, and was, for those who didn't have it, you're able to have it as you came into the service this morning. I would like to offer the opportunity now for people to ask questions within the meeting, if you've got any questions or comments, recognising that that there will be, as I said, some things that perhaps you might have considered to be important that are not there, for which I apologise. If you would like to tell me what they are, we will try to remember to make particular reference to them in future annual reports. But are there any questions or comments relating to the annual report at this stage? If on reading it at home, at your leisure, you do have questions, then please, you all know my phone number, you please ring me and ask the questions or pass the comments. I'm really pleased to receive that feedback. Okay? In the absence of any questions, let's continue on to the next item,
Report from the resourcing group.
which is the report from the resourcing group. And thank you, Margaret. You will share with us some important information. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. You will, I hope, remember that the resourcing group was established by Church Council in October last year, and we've had 6 meetings so far. There are 14 members, one of whom 13, because one's just resigned, so now 13, one of whom is a corresponding member. I'm convener and Carol is the note taker. We were appointed by Council for those jobs. The task we were given was to consider how Morialta Uniting Church can best manage our future, given, in the first instance, the next 5 years, given our heritage, our theological understanding, and our financial and personnel challenges, and to report to Council on findings and conclusions. It's been a very emotional exercise, as you can imagine. There's been very wide-ranging discussion, and it's been very engaging for lots of us. The feedback we've given to Council so far, firstly, about the idea about investigating a possible collaborative relationship with Kimber. I'll say a bit more in a minute. And secondly, a summary that we've prepared for Council on the number of hours we spend as a congregation in keeping Morialta running in its present form. And I'll say a bit more about that in a minute. So, Kimber, first of all. Conversations are just commencing. Council thought this was a good idea to pursue, and conversations are commencing to see what a potential collaboration could possibly look like in the future. The benefits, the challenges, and the practicalities of doing something like that. And many of you will have noticed that we have Brett and Fran Francis from Kimber with us today, worshipping with us and sitting in on the meeting, and they'll be at lunch, so opportunities for chatting. The second thing, the data collection. So how would you go about doing that, finding out how many hours it takes to do that? So the group together, the resourcing group together, designed a spreadsheet. What a challenge, eh? And nominated people to be consulted about the hours spent on particular bits of what happens. Colin Cargill collated a first draft of all of that and worked with Steve Begg. It was all discussed and analysed by the group, and here is the summary. I'm going to say a bit about what those categories are about. The first line is self-evident. That's supporting and maintaining the live stream worship. And I haven't got the numbers with me. Yes, Jenny? A year. This is the annual figure. Correct, Colin? Right. So that's, I don't have to explain what that's, we can work out what that is. The second line, supporting the worshipping community. That's like coffee time and getting the paraments organised and the communion elements and all those bits around all of that that supports the worshipping community. The third line, supporting the Morialta community, that is council, the office, the friendship group, gateways, student accommodation, the library, funerals, yep, all that stuff. The fourth line, supporting the property. That's sort of obvious, yeah? All the work to keep the property going, all the properties going. Because remember, we've got the manse and we've got the 2 student houses and we've got, okay? The fifth line, resourcing and community outreach. That's the facilities hire, liaison with the netball people, the fundraising and community building events, liaison with the Dawoodi Borough and the local council, the Japanese playgroup, things like that. We did not even try to look at the market, okay? The market is like a one-off thing over there, and we just thought it wasn't worth the effort to try and calculate what that would be. So it's just over there, the market's extra. Okay? So that's the number that we're using as we think more about how we can respond to that task that Council's given us. We've got our 7th meeting this afternoon after the lunch. Long day for those 13 of us. Okay, questions?
I think that one of the things that we should be doing is congratulating the resourcing group for the work that they've done on our behalf so far. So can I ask you to do that, please? Leanne's already talked about commitment, but these are people who have committed themselves to an additional load to look at and explore a future for us. So thank you very much to that. But it's also, Margaret, isn't it, amazing to see the number of hours that are involved in actually bringing to life our community, the congregation that we call Morialta, both near and far. Sorry to interrupt, but are there any questions? If you've got any questions, if you could put your yellow card up, that would be excellent.
I should perhaps also say that we did divide the hours into volunteer hours and paid hours. So we do have those figures separated, but we've just given you the total there because that actually helps us. One of the things that obviously need to be looked at is if we need to pay for more of this stuff in the future, how many hours are we looking at? That's one of the big reasons for doing this. If, as our volunteer numbers shrink, and we have to start paying for more, how much is that likely to be required to do that? Yeah, okay. Good. No questions. Thank you.
Margaret, thank you very much. Before you go on to your next part, can I just say thank you very much, as I said already. There's a lot to digest here, and as always, if you go away from the meeting and you think, oh, you know, I should have asked such and so, don't just leave it at on your pillow or wherever you're thinking about it. Actually, pick up the phone and make a phone call and actually ask the questions, because in asking the questions, you're actually helping the resourcing group to do their task even better. Is that a...
Yep,
yeah.
Absolutely. Delighted to hear from you.
Yeah. So, and that includes, you know, if you happen to be at the lunch after the meeting, you know, talk to each other about it, and if you've got questions, please do so. Please ask the questions. Thank you, Margaret. Sorry.
Carol has a question.
Yeah. Yes, Carol.
We certainly could. Now, this is me off the top of my head. Watch me forget people. So if I forget people, tell me, all right? So Carol and I appointed by council. Colin Cargill, Steve Begg, Leslie Tidderman, Jan Sillett, Julie Lomman, John Seacombe,
Christine Garner. Jenny Swanbury.
Jenny Swanbury.
John Drew is the
John Drew's a corresponding member because he's not well and a bit withdrawn at the moment. Joan Morrison has been a member up till now, but because she's not able to drive at the moment and has missed the meeting, she's asked to resign, but that will happen at today's meeting. It hasn't, that's news. Mary Thornley. Thank you, Leslie. Is that the lot?
I think that's 13.
I didn't have the list in front of me, so I'm sorry that I had to fluff around.
That's enough people. You can surely, if you've got a question, there's surely somewhere in that list that you can actually
Okay, now
approach.
John Thornton's got a question.
John.
Yeah, thank you. In looking, obviously you're gathering data at present, but looking forward, into short-term, medium-term, long-term challenges and fixes?
Yes. Yes. But our particular remit was to look at 5 years. So that's, it doesn't mean that we're not looking further than that, but that was the remit that we were given from council.
I was actually thinking of looking short term.
Oh yes, oh yes, yes.
We're doing that too.
Keep people with health challenges.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that gives me a lovely segue into the next thing I have to say.
Thank you, excellent. Well done. Go for it.
So, AV event on the 19th of May. Given that there are a number of ageing and health-related issues on the agenda at the moment, now and in the short term, we're in need of more people who would like to join the AV team that helps to provide our streaming and the support of the actual services here in the church. So if you've ever had any curiosity, what do they do up there? What happens in that back room? We're going to give you an opportunity to find out. So after the service on the 19th of May, there's going to be a come and see, come and play session. Yeah. So with your coffee in hand, you are invited to come back into the church and see what goes on. All the bits. The cameras. The projection. The audio desk at the back. The YouTube setup and how it works in the back room. All the things that we do. Come and see how it works and just see if there might be one of those jobs that you might be interested to put your hand up for some training and see if you might be able to join the roster. Yeah? And even if not, you'll know a whole lot more of what goes on, and when proposals are made about buying equipment or something, you'll have a much better idea of understanding what we do and why we might need it. Yeah? 19th of May. Any questions?
Just Ruth, if you could just
Sorry,
wait.
Ruth,
we'll get a microphone to you.
There's a mic coming.
Thank you.
Ruth,
could you?
Ruth Pitt.
Sorry. I hope you've got a team of IT service people who can rectify any stuff-ups that those of us who press the wrong key at the wrong time and do the wrong thing always with IT might.
Absolutely. We have John
results.
John, would you like to say something?
I can guarantee you, Ruth, that any mistake anyone is going to make has already been made by someone before you.
That's right.
Absolutely. We're a bunch of volunteers doing the best we can.
That's exactly right.
Do not be frightened.
There's nothing to be frightened about because actually nothing can be... well, I better not say that. Yeah. You'd have to try really hard to break things.
Well, you have to try really hard to do something that hasn't been done before.
That's exactly right, yeah. So, and Ruth, you said you weren't going to say anything, but I'm glad you did. Well done. Thank you very much.
I just remember my son who works in IT, whenever I ask him something, he says, "Mum, just play with it. You can't hurt it."
That's exactly right.
But whenever I touch anything, everything goes haywire and I can never fix it and,
You just
hate
have
it
to-
all.
Yeah. Well, be adventurous like Ruth is going to be, because Ruth will come on the 19th.
Ruth needs to come on the 19th,
on
definitely.
the 19th, I'm sure.
We will welcome Ruth on the 19th.
Good.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Margaret, and thank you for all you do in relation to the resourcing group and as leader of the AV team. Thank you. So, what have we got next?
Election.
Now, this being the annual general meeting of our congregation, there are certain responsibilities that come to each of us as members. One of those is electing our leadership for the next period. You will all have received a ballot paper. The ballot paper contains the names of those nominated in the particular areas. We have people named to take on the role of elder in church council. We have somebody who has been named as nominated for congregation chairperson, and we have a name for the presbytery representative. Now, our bylaws state that to be elected by secret ballot, then the number of votes must be at least 75% of those present. Your ballot paper is for you to use as you decide. You may put as many or as few ticks in as you like. All of the names that are mentioned are eligible for the roles that they have been nominated for, and there are positions in particular on church council for all those who have been nominated. But it's up to you to decide how many you would like to vote for. Before we vote, and while we vote, and after we vote, we need to actually appoint scrutineers. And during our conversations to this point, Leanne volunteered Scott and herself to act as volunteers. So I'm going to put the proposal to you that we appoint Scott and Leanne Davis as scrutineers for the purposes of this election. Can I see your warmth or otherwise to this proposal? We have consensus? Yes, we have consensus. If you have not got a pencil or a pen already, could you please make sure that you get one from the table at the back? But in the meantime, I offer this short period of time for you to consider the names and mark your ballot paper accordingly. When you have finished, if you can fold it thus and pass it to the end of the aisle, the middle aisle, that would be good. Please fill your paper in as you wish. Thank you. Now, Dawn and Sam Colgrove are apologies, as is Mary and Peter Thornley. Okay. Now, what's the next item on the agenda?
Election of elders and of leaders,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then resourcing and enabling mission.
Right, that's Carol. I think we've given them to. Yeah. Do you want to? You don't have to read. If you could do it over there on the side, go where you like. Torch. Scott, I think, it probably would be easier for you to just go, wait over on the side. That's all right. Okay. No worries. Okay. All right. Thank you. So, has everybody taken the opportunity to vote? Are there any outstanding ballot papers to be collected? Thank you. Thanks very much. We await your return and the information that you provide, Scott and Leanne. Thank you very much. The next item, or the next area of business, is resourcing our congregation, and to that end, I welcome Carol to the lectern, and she will provide us with information. Can I say, Carol, I'm glad to see you upright. I know that during your recent sojourn on the East Coast, you did actually have a fall. It obviously wasn't a fall from grace, but it was a fall nonetheless, and I recognise that there are still some things that you need to explore, but I'm glad to see you here today.
Right, so let's get into the report. So I'm reporting on our financial year, January to December 2023. These figures come directly from the accounts that the bookkeeping unit do for us, and then they supply me with these reports. They do a great job. They do all our VAS statements and our GST and everything like that, so we're really thankful. I mean, we pay for it, but we're really thankful that they do that for us. So I'll go through these slides, and at the end of each of the slides, I'll ask if there's any questions. I really would welcome questions from you, because the finances of the church are one of the really important things that we must look at. We are running a small business here. Apart from our worship, we are running a small business, and as such, all businesses have to look at their financial positions. So we're firstly looking at the income, and this is for the 12 months for 2023. You've got the budget column, the actual column, and the difference column. So you'll see that our income for the envelope giving, electronic giving, were above budget, which is great, and the giving loose plate was just $2 under budget. So in fact, for 2023, our giving, our offerings was really good. The student accommodation, the houses next door, we had a pretty good year with them. It's slightly under budget, but that could account for the fact that for the months of December and January, the students do not pay for the utilities because mostly they're away. The hire of facilities, that was, once again, a tremendous year. And we all know that the Dawoodi Borough have just finished Ramadan here, and apart from the month of Ramadan, they also have 9 days of another celebration in August, and then many, many one-off occasions through the year. So the total contribution of the Dawoodis is around about $6,000 to $7,000. And of course, the rest comes from the hire of the facilities to keep fit groups, art groups, and so on. We are, in fact, got 3 new hirers of the facilities commencing this year. We've got another art group, a yoga group, 2 art groups, and a yoga group. So that is good. It's tremendous, really, and it's wonderful to see the facilities being used. We pride ourselves in being a community centre and open to the public. Fundraising, we talked about the market earlier, but that was a surprising success for us last year. We didn't expect that, but was a really good effort. It was well over, I think, about just under $12,000. Hospitality and catering, that amount is offset by the expenses we'll have, which will appear in the expenses columns shortly. And the Community Program Centre, as I said, the programs are Tai Chi, I can't think of the others.
Art and Craft.
Oh, the Art and Craft Circle, And they're just, the people that come along just pay $2 per time. So you'll see that, we have a lot of people come along for us to get so much money from that. Now, before I move on to anything else, what that will give us, community centre programs. Interest received, thanks Colin. Interest received, now that was a real surprise to us this year. We had allowed a very conservative amount for interest from our investments with UC Invest, but through the year, the interest rates did rise 2 or 3 times through the year, so that obviously has helped with us. So the interest from the investments was $4,800 above our actual estimation. Sundry income, that's just bits and pieces, but don't fit into any other category in our budget. So sundry income can account for just odds and ends. Donations general, now that is, I'll give you some breakdowns on that. The donations for the full year, the donations, general donations, where it's not for a specific cause or anything, were $3,000. We had a separate one-off donation of $10,000. That was from a member, and that was specifically to go towards the budget deficit. We had a bequest of $10,000 from a member who was a long-term member of Morialta who moved further into the country some years ago, but there was a bequest in his will that Morialta should get a bequest of $10,000. And as you know, we had several funerals through 2023, and donations from members of the family amounted to $4,650. So we had some very, very generous supporters of our church last year. The Morialta Netball Club, they give an annual donation to the church for the use of the facilities here. But they also, when they have renovations or extensions or anything done to the shed area, they suggested that if Morialta Church pay that account, then they will reimburse us that amount less the GST, which we have already claimed. So they are saving us quite a bit of money by doing that. So all we are actually paying on that is the GST. They are reimbursing us for the remainder of that amount. So if we're looking at the total income for the year, our budget was $184,500. The actual, taking into account everything we've just been through, was $240,881, and therefore that left us with an operating profit of $56,381. That was really a most unexpected result for the 12 months, because we started off the year with expecting quite a large deficit. But with the extra hiring and the generous donations, we were $56,000 over our budget. No, thanks, Colin. If we can move on to the expenses. Once again, I'll just go through each of the... Oh, sorry. Were there any questions regarding any part of the income? I'd be very happy to answer anything you may have. Nope, looks like everybody's...
I guess, Carol, if I may, as you've indicated, it was actually quite a surprising result, but it's not something that we should be sitting on our laurels
Rest on our laurels about.
We actually need to continue to think very carefully about how we can contribute both financially and in kind, as well as the work that we do, as well as the many hours that we commit to this congregation for its worship and mission. There's also obviously the financial support. So please continue to think prayerfully and consider prayerfully your support for this place. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. If we can move on to the expenses. Once again, at the end of each slide, I'll ask you if there are any questions relating to that slide. The community centre expenses, sorry, it was just a very small difference there. Pastoral care, A lot wasn't expended there. Pastoral care normally would cover flowers or cards or anything that is in relation to the support of the people in there. Worship and faith education, that would cover special events that we might hold, any requirements we might have for booklets or anything like that. The audio-visual team, I think from memory, the audio-visual, all they bought this year was a microphone and, I can't remember, John. John can't either, that's good. So any questions there on any of those, the four there, they're just smaller items. And if we go now to the administration, our Mission and Service Fund, that is calculated on our income, total income, less any expenses that we may have against the property that would affect the income of hirers and so on. And also, if we fundraise for a particular cause, then we do not have to pay the Mission and Service Fund on that amount. So I take the total income for the year, and then from that I can deduct any expenses or purpose-driven donations, and then we pay, on that resultant figure, we pay 10% to the Mission and Service Fund, and then 2% to the presbytery. And then every year there is a one-off payment to the redress scheme, and that, of course, is the redress against any future ramifications of any abuse that may have happened in the church in the past. Stipend and allowances, of course, that's everything that relates to the employment of the minister. The office coordinator, that's quite self-explaining. It's Nicole's pay plus any training or anything that she may need to do. The accounting, that is what we would pay to the auditors, the annual audit done by independent auditors, and to the bookkeeping unit for the monthly production, entry and production of the accounts, the reports. Computers and internet, we've had very little in the past 12 months. I think all we had to do was replace the office computer, I think, this last 12 months. And as I said earlier, hospitality and catering, those expenses are offset against the income from hospitality and catering. We did have quite a bit of catering last year, because of the funerals we had, so that's probably up a little bit. The office expenses, that relates to any expenses for stationery and so on, the lease of the photocopier, the lease of the photocopier and anything due to the running of the office. Like sundry income, there's always sundry expenses. So that $2,955, I don't know that I've actually, I haven't itemised that, but I certainly can if anybody would like to know that. Communications, we haven't, the communications, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen with that, but we haven't had anything against that. That's one of the things that will be looked at along with other things. So could I have any questions, please, relating to the administration side of it? Okay, we'll move on now to finance. Now, the $4,200 you see up there in finance, that is, in fact, $4,000 each year is transferred into the sinking fund, which is a UC investment. So $4,200. It's not showing as an actual up there because it was a journal entry done by the bookkeeping unit for that. So that won't appear in future budgets. And the $200, that was for any expenses that we may have had in fundraising, but there were no fundraising expenses either. And if we move on to the properties, thanks, Colin. The first one, of course, is the Chapel Street property. I have to congratulate Chris Ailes and the property team. They do an amazing job each year in keeping the property expenses to a minimum. And the last 2 years, the decision was taken by council that we only do the maintenance really necessary to keep the place running. At the moment, we've got no major maintenance scheduled. If there is anything major does come up and must be done, that would be funded out of one of the investment accounts. And then we have the usual rates and taxes, utilities and insurance. Now, the insurance for 2023, there was an increase of 22%, and that was Australia-wide, not just here, it was Australia-wide, 22% increase in the previous year's premiums. And we're anticipating for 2024 that there may be a further 15% increase. So insurance is really one of those big items. Not much we can do about it, but it's something that we must keep in mind. In the cleaning, the subcontractor cleaning supplies, as you know, we have cleaners now that do both the premises here and next door, and we pay them. I think we're very happy with the service they give us. Any questions then on the 26 Chapel Street property? Nope. John's standing up there ready to grab the microphone and run down if anybody's got a question. Thanks, John. The Mance property. We didn't have to, last year we'd done quite a bit of maintenance to the Mance the previous year. So this in 2023 we didn't have a lot of maintenance to the Mance. I think perhaps this year we are leasing the Mance out, but we must keep in mind that when we get a minister and that minister chooses to live in the Mance, that we may have quite a bit of maintenance to do, because there are certain standards that the Mance must uphold and be approved for a ministerial accommodation. Once again, insurance affected the Mance property as well. So if I've got any questions on the Highland Avenue property. Christine? Run, John.
Just hang on. Wait, we've got Christine Garner, and we'll come to you after Christine's asked her question.
Can you tell me what's happening to the Highland Avenue without a minister in it at the moment?
Without
having a minister in placement there?
Yes. The Mance, Bruce, you answer it, the Mance will be leased out. It was leased out from January to March, and I'm not quite sure, because I've been away, what will happening from then.
Well,
so I think Bruce can answer that better.
I can tell you that Chris Ailes has negotiated with John Regal's organisation to have our Mance on the market for rental. There's been at least one open inspection, so to speak, and we would there's at least another one planned. In the terms of real estate agents, I think that there were 19 units, or between 10 and 20 units that came through and had a look at the facilities that were available, so we're hopeful that that a contract will be signed for 6 months in the first instance shortly. Chris and I removed some of the extraneous equipment from the Mance yesterday, so that it's a clean slate for people coming in. And for other information that's relevant, our advice is that the market rate for rental is $650 a week for the Mance. Does that answer your question, Christine?
Thanks, Bruce.
Just wait for the microphone, please. Oh, has he? I beg your pardon. Could you speak up, please?
Have to speak louder.
Thank you. That's much better.
Thank you. Sorry, Bruce and Carol, I see you've done a wonderful job on all those properties and all the preparation you've done. It qualifies for a lot of hard work, and I appreciate the number of hours. It must be 100 hours a week on the way I've equated it. But my question is that I had spoken to you as we came in about the future of the property at Highland Avenue, and I know that the situation is hard now, but to get people into the units, but that's a valuable property. I'm not sure which way we're going to go, but in the meantime, should we be looking at the situation with the shortage of properties for people to rent?
Well, if I might answer that, we think that as a congregation we are actually doing a lot more than many organisations, because we do provide low-cost accommodation to tertiary students from the country, and we have done that over 30 years. We're not sure about the situation that future placements will require, and as a consequence, and in an attempt to observe good stewardship, we are looking to rent the manse out on a 6-month contract in the first instance, so that it is not vacant and that we as a congregation will be receiving monies for it. Carol's already indicated that during the period earlier in the year, the manse was occupied at a reduced cost by people related to the Uniting Church. And we thought that, as a council, that was the best way to go, because we were not sure about the need for our manse in relation to placement. But given the speed with which the placements process works, we felt that 6 months of rental accommodation was a good way of using and being responsible stewards for what we've got.
Thank you. That sounds very sensible, and I think the way the future goes, that we should do on a 6-monthly would be a good answer.
We will be led by the experts, the real estate agents, but certainly you will be kept apprised of any moves in this matter.
Extra good. Thank you, Bruce.
Also, I might explain that as part of a placement or supply, we still are obliged to pay some accommodation for the supply minister or another minister. That is a monthly amount that they are entitled to. So that also is an expense against that income as well. Another question?
Yes, I just wanted, with regard to the insurance area, you've obviously got your amounts up there, but what sort of things are claimed for there with the insurance?
If we claim?
Yes.
We'll have an excess of, it's a $500 excess on any claim that we might have. So yes, there was an excess of $500.
Yes, and that's for the previous one, the previous
yes, yeah.
members?
There's always been an excess against any claim, and I don't think we hadn't had a claim for a long time.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
We have had a claim. We have had a claim for water damage in the manse, and
we did.
And we've had from time to time had claims for repairs that need to be done, that need to be made on the fabric of all of our properties. The thing is that we are required by the Synod to actually fully insure our buildings and plant, and we don't, as Carol said, we don't have any recourse to change that. And certainly we just have to cope with the increased prices. You can be sure, Carol, if I'm not trying to steal your thunder, many congregations have sought a revaluation of their their buildings quite unwisely, because it has meant that their insurance bill has skyrocketed. We are aware that the replacement costs of these buildings, the buildings that we are sitting in, and the homes that we have available to us for various functions, they are worth a lot of money, but they are probably worth a lot more than the insured amount. I think that's pretty.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're not in the process of, we're not intending to have a revaluation of for insurance purposes.
Last year, when the insurance increased by that 22%, I contacted the brokers and said, why such a huge increase? We haven't had floods, we haven't had this, we haven't had that in South Australia. But the insurance Australia-wide, the fees are set on Australia-wide, Australasia. And so whatever happens in any of the states, whether it floods or fire or drought or whatever, that will affect the insurance premium for every person in Australia. So that was, one of the reasons that our premiums were so high. And I anticipate that they will also increase for next 2025. Any other questions then on the Highland Avenue, or any insurance questions? Thank you. And now the 26 Chapel Street property. I might actually, Anne, you're giving a report, aren't you? No, okay. Right, so the maintenance and cleaning, once again, the properties there are cleaned twice a week? Once a week? Once a fortnight. And that will be for the maintenance, the cleaning, and any products that we need for cleaning as well. The maintenance this year, I think we've had gutters cleaned and windows cleaned and... Oh, yes, we had to buy some new appliances as well. There was a new fridge, a new... I can't remember. But
washing machine.
Yeah, new washing machine. So,
and dryer.
They are paying rent there. Once again, we have to maintain that property in the manner that it is well looked after so that it can be rented out. The rates, utilities and the internet, that's self-explanatory, and once again the insurance is exactly the same. So the total expenses there for properties, the total expenses all up. The budget is $219,600, and the total property expenses $219,600 against the actual of $209,000, bringing it in as $10,300 under budget. Once again, a lot of that relates to the maintenance that we didn't have to carry out on the property. So, and once again, I must mention that Chris Ailes does an amazing job. I don't think many of us realise the number of hours that Chris does put in maintaining this property for us. So I'll go back now to the actual position at the end of the year. Our budget for the year was anticipated to be I'm trying to find it now.
56,000 deficit.
Yeah. I can't find it. I don't think I put it down.
Anyway, it was a significant deficit.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a $56,000 deficit.
Yeah, I haven't got it here.
Anyway.
Yeah. So if we're looking at the total income for the year was $240,881. Total expenses for the year, $209,256. So our operating surplus, I don't like to call it a profit because we're not in the business of making a profit. The operating surplus for 2023 was $66,725. Bruce, do we need to have that put to the congregation?
Well, we just need to note it. I think that it is self-explanatory, and
okay.
But it actually, I mean, Carol, thank you as always for the work that you do. But it does as underline the the purpose of a budget is to provide a framework for us in expenses, and it also provides us with a challenge to consider our regular giving. We all belong to all sorts of organisations that require annual subscriptions, etc., and so on, and the church is no different. We call it stewardship, but it is an important part of who we are and what we're about. And as I said already, we're not. This surplus is not something that we should be patting ourselves on the back for, but we actually should be thinking about our future and how we can continue our worship and mission life as we would want to and as we have done in the past. It is really important for us to think about that in those terms, I think, isn't it?
Thank you, Bruce. Colin, have you got the balance sheet? Hang on.
Oh, there's a question?
Just looking at those figures, you quoted, is it 56,381 that's in surplus, and then you've got total expenses. You take that off?
No, you add them together.
Oh, right. I thought you'd be taking off the expenses.
No, because the $10,000 is under the expenses we expected.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
Sorry, you add them together.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Suzanne. Now, we have the balance sheet, Colin. Thank you. This is our actual position as at the end of December 2023. The cash in the bank, that is our operating account that we pay our income into and our expenses each month, was $20,000. The total investments we have with the UC Invest as at the 31st of December, $185,000. And the sinking fund, that's where we put that $4,000 each year, and we build that up for any major expenses we might have coming up for the properties. And that currently has $50,000 in it. I've just transferred another $4,000 for this year. So our total assets, and that was everything, including our bank accounts and our investments, $257,000. The total liabilities are monies that we still owe and need to pay out. And that would be GST and any of the fundraising that we've done that needs to be paid out, like a Christmas bowl and things like that. So our net assets at the end of 2023 were $253,055. I did give you a breakdown of the donations earlier. Colin, I don't know if you want to just bring that up again so people could have a quick look at it. So the donations total $27,000. The reimbursements from the Netball Club and the Netball Club donations. So if we're looking at $27,000 in donations for 2023, that is a one-off at this stage. It's a one-off. They may not happen again. So that, as Bruce said earlier, there's still a lot of consideration we need to give to what we actually support the church with. Unless there's any other questions, I'm going to sit down.
Thank you, Carol. Can we show our appreciation? Thank you. Okay.
So it's interfaith and wider church.
Right.
And then the declaration. So it's interfaith and wider church.
Right. The next item on the agenda is interfaith and wider church matters. Obviously, as good members of the wider church, we have activities that take place in wider church councils. We have people who represent us at presbytery level and at synod level, but also we celebrate the advances that we as a congregation have made in the area of interfaith. We have a long history of engagement with other faith communities. If you've been around the place long enough, you will know that there have been occasions where the social justice team have arranged information evenings and fellowship occasions for people from different faiths. and we, right on our doorstep, are seeing how we as a community of Christians are able to work with people who follow the Islamic faith. So that, I think, is something to celebrate, and something that actually sets us somewhat aside from many other congregations and faith communities. Before I ask if there are any questions about that, perhaps I can ask Bev Treadray to just briefly give some information about the recent presbytery meeting and the decisions that were taken at that meeting. Thanks.
Thanks, Bruce. Carol. Okay, thanks, Bruce. Maybe it's something that you may not know is exactly where Wimmera Presbytery extends. It's the northern part of the city. So, we're in Wimmera, but Burnside are in the southern presbytery. So the dividing line is somewhere through this northern part of our city.
Actually,
but
I was going to say, sorry, Bev, if you actually travelled along Henley Beach Road, then on the north would be Wimmera, and on the south would be Presbytery of Southern South Australia. Now, if you put a line on a map that continued Henley Beach Road across, then you would see that Wimmera is above that to the north of Henley Beach Road, or wherever Henley Beach Road would go, and Presbytery of Southern South Australia would be below it. Of course, in South Australia, because we're different, we have 3 presbyteries. 2 presbyteries are geographic, and 1 presbytery is non-geographic. And those of you who know, or might know, that Generate is that non-geographic presbytery. We won't go into the reasons, the whys and the wherefores, but just for information, if you want to know more, ask Bev or somebody else.
Okay.
Thank you, Bev. Sorry to interrupt.
That's fine. So that's the city churches, but also Wimmera are all the north of the state cities, and the west. So churches over on the Eyre Peninsula and the York Peninsula are all part of the Wimmera Presbytery. So we have probably more country churches within the presbytery. Diane and Leanne would probably tell me this. Than we do city churches. So that's sort of where we are as a presbytery. Now, as for meetings, they are always a great time of sharing information, of meeting each other, people, meeting people that you know, and meeting new people. So they're always great times of sharing what's happening within our churches. In this particular one, the first part of the agenda was the installation of Diane Holden as our new chairperson. Now, some of you may remember Trevor Phillips was here last year preaching one Sunday. He has been the chair of the presbytery since its inception, and now Diane has taken over that role of chairperson. So that was a lovely service with many visitors that participated in that installation. It's a time when we have lots of reports that are brought before us. There was this time the report from the moderator telling us the sorts of things that he had been doing in his first year as moderator. There were a couple of people who reported on some youth camps that had been held during this past year, and they had been funded by the Grants Committee of the Presbytery. There was someone from the Grants Committee there telling us about the availability of grants from the presbytery for particular activities that churches may want to be involved in. Once again, it was a great time of sharing over morning tea, afternoon tea and lunch. And so each church where we hold the meetings are responsible for that hospitality, and it was certainly very much appreciated by the people who attended. I was very pleased to sit at lunch at a table when I met Brian from Kimber, so we could have a little chat about that and our association with Kimber. But we meet people from all over the state, and it's a good thing to do to widen our horizons of what the Uniting Church is doing in South Australia. So, any questions that people might have? Thank you.
Thank you, Bev, and thank you for your commitment on our behalf. As I said, I flagged our significant involvement with interfaith activity. I wonder, are there any questions from anybody in relation to that? Well, sorry, we'll just wait for Suzanne for you to...
Thank you. What are the faiths that are included?
Yep.
And also, are there any, is that going to be extended?
I think that if I might speak and others might like to chime in, we have had, with regard to the Dawoodi community, we've enjoyed an association for now a number of years, and we think that it will continue. It's not without its challenges, and certainly there's a group of people from Morialta that meet regularly with representatives from that community to explore ways of making things work more smoothly. I don't think that we're actively engaged in looking at programs of engagement with other faiths apart from the Dawoodi, but certainly we have had information sessions and times of fellowship in the past with people from the Jewish community, I think from Hindu, and obviously also other Christian denominations. This feeds into responsibilities that are taken up by Synod, and Synod has groups that exercise or explore interfaith and interdenominational dialogue. Does that answer the question, Suzanne? All right. Jenny?
Thank you. Jenny here.
Thank you, Jenny.
I go to a monthly interfaith group. It's called Interfaith something or other, and I don't always go, and I don't go on behalf of our church, but it's run by Lily. There's a committee that runs it, and Lily Lachlan?
Yeah, Lachlan.
And Paul Turley, part of it. And a week or so ago, went to one with Aboriginal spirituality. And there's been the Jewish faith, and there's been others. And one of them, for instance, I went to, sat at a table where we ate. We have a meal together as well as speakers. And there was 2 Muslim people, a Jewish person, a Christian person, and a fellow who called himself a lapsed Catholic. But, you know, it's a marvellous thing. I just thought you might like to know about that organisation.
Thank you, Jenny. there's an opportunity for you to find out more, obviously, in conversations. But one of the things, just in finishing off, those of you who took the opportunity to participate last Sunday in the Eid celebration that the Dawoodi Bora community invited us to, I'm sure had a lovely time of fellowship and education. And so I hope that we will continue to explore those relationships as we continue on our personal faith journeys. Our personal faith journeys can obviously be informed by those around us, whether they are Christian or from other faiths, and I think that that's something that is a little different and something that Morialta needs to hang on to, in my view. You mightn't necessarily agree, but you could perhaps have a chat with me later.
And Bruce, they're hoping to get their own premises sometime as well.
Well, and we hope that will be the case, because then it will be their carpets that are dirtied and not ours. But anyway, that's a small price to pay. Are there any other questions relating to that item? We are moving to the end of the agenda, but before I declare the ballots, or I ask the ballots to be declared, can I just also say that there are things that are happening around our congregation that we should celebrate. Colin had a brief word to me at the beginning of the meeting, in between the meeting and the service, to say that while there wasn't any need for a report from the Community Building and Fundraising Group, there are things that are happening. We will be given an opportunity to experience a couple of musical events in the near future, as well as some other occasions that might be organised. One of them, I understand, is a bingo afternoon or whatever. So please keep your ear to the ground and be prepared to commit to sharing the information about those opportunities with your friends and neighbours. We don't necessarily want you to be the only ones who are spending money coming. We'd much prefer if you brought along your friends and family too. But anyway, I think that's all that I have to say about that. Before, perhaps we'll declare the ballot, and then I'll ask if there's anybody else that wants to raise anything for the benefit of Morialta. Leanne and Scott, you diligently collated the responses through the ballot. Are you able to tell us some information, please?
Yes. What would you like to know?
Well, can you tell us...
the ballot results.
Yes, please, the ballot results. According to the information that was provided and our bylaws, can you tell us, please, who is elected to each of those areas of responsibility?
I can do that. There were 43 ballots cast, which means 75% is 32 and a bit. Since we can't have a bit, we went with 33 for greater than or equal to 75%. So with that in mind, the following people have been elected to Church Council: Chris Ailes, Helena Begg, Margaret Cargill and John Seckham. I've just written down here, Chair of Congregation and the number of votes. Bruce has been re-elected as Chair of Congregation, and Bev Treadray has been re-elected as our Presbytery representative.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, thank you for that. Can I just say, let's pray. God, thank you to all those who have made themselves available to you and our congregation. May they be filled with your wisdom and love as they take up the roles that they have been elected to. be with us all as we look to them and the Church Council and other leadership committees to provide us with information and opportunities for growth and mission. In the name of Jesus, we put all of this before you. Amen. Now, before we go, I know that this has been a reasonably long meeting, but I hope that it's been an informative meeting. Is there anybody that would like to bring anything to the meeting or ask anything? Yes, there's a... Who? Michelle Benier. Thank you.
Is this working?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
I'd just like to express thanks to Cynthia Story for her card ministry.
Thank you.
If you'd like to say more, Bruce.
I was going to close with that, but thank you very much for prompting me, just in case I'd forgotten.
Yes, I would like to know, I don't know that I've heard anything officially about Leanne continuing ministry here. And I know that her term was coming up, so I expected today to hear some future comment.
Sure. Well, I can tell you that, Joan, we actually made a decision, the council and Leanne made a decision to extend the period of supply to at least the 31st of July. And I'm pretty sure that information was provided to the congregation. I'm sorry that you missed it, but you can be sure now that everybody has heard Leanne will be here at least until the 31st of July and perhaps longer.
Well, thank you.
And
I wasn't aware of it, and someone at morning tea this morning was amazed that I had heard something somewhere that there was a continuation, but without a date. So I'm not the only one.
Oh, well, there you are.
But can I say, we are really blessed.
Well, good. Yep. Ruth? You told me that you weren't going to say anything, Ruth.
I know.
But I'm really glad you are.
This is why I was caned on the back of the legs by my grade 6 teacher and on the hands by the grade 7 teacher, and spent half the class time outside the classroom in high school.
They did not know what they were doing, Ruth. Please share your concerns.
Okay, now I've noticed out on the table in the foyer there was a petition.
Yes?
Now, I don't know whether I'm the only one who couldn't read it because it was so damn small, but I wonder if there could be consideration in future for those of us who maybe have failing eyesight and make the font bigger on any of those paper presentations.
Your point is well made, and it will be acted upon. For your information and the information of others, Margaret, would you like to share? Would you like to share the detail about that petition, please?
Thanks, Bruce. So the petition is from John Gardner, the Morialta state member, and it concerns the use of the land that is currently the McGill campus of the University of South Australia. That campus will be surplus to requirements when the merger between the two universities takes place, and the petition is encouraging the people who are responsible for the disposal of the land to make sure that there is community use, that the Murray House is kept, that the childcare centre stays, etc. So it's not a church-based, it's a community-based thing, but council decided that it would be good to provide it for people to sign if they wish, and we will make a bigger print version so you can read it all.
Thank you. Now, I would, in the absence of any further questions or comments, Michelle, thank you for prompting me. I was going to say something about Cynthia's changed circumstances. Cynthia's story, I'm sure that many of you, if not most, or in fact all of you, have received a card from Morialta's card ministry, coordinated and undertaken by Cynthia's story over many years. Cynthia, as you may be aware, is presently undertaking treatment for cancer. Like many of other members of the congregation, this requires significant time and it is very tiring. And so she asked if she could be released from the role of card ministry coordinator. We recognise gratefully the work that she has done and the opportunities that she has provided for thanks and reflection for people in the past. We hope that she will be able to take on that role again, but we do not expect that it will be in any time soon. In the meantime, however, arrangements have been made for that card ministry to continue, and we will continue as a community to receive cards when it is appropriate for that to happen. In the absence, are there any other questions, comments or concerns? Can I ask you then to stand as I pray the benediction and pray for our community, please? God of grace, we are people on the way. Help us to continue to work with the challenges in front of us. Help us to challenge ourselves and each other. Be with those who are not present for one reason or another. If they are of failing health, if they have injury, if they have other responsibilities, be with them wherever they are. Help them to feel your hands, your feet, your arms, as they interact with us. Help us to be your mouths, your eyes, and your ears in this place and wherever we go. Be with us now as we continue into the day, whether it be over lunch and fellowship that is important to us all, or in other activities. And finally, God, thank you for those who have made it possible for us to have a church council and other leadership responsibilities. Be with those who are taking up the mantle and help them to feel your grace and your love. Amen. Please, on your way out, if you could put your cards on the table, and please enjoy the rest of the day. Yeah. Absolutely. They may think that, I mean, I don't know why, and I don't know what
they may not know me.
Well, they might. Well, I think they would know you, but maybe they think